Hello, friends. Welcome back to Love Wrestling. It is WrestleMania week, so you know I had to kick it off on a great note, chatting with one of professional wrestling's finest. You used to know him as Justin Gabriel. You currently know him as the Darewolf, and within a few hours, you are going to know him as the ArcadeMania champion. PJ Black joining me. PJ, it is great to see you. Thank you for joining me on the precipice of something very, very cool in Los Angeles. But how are you doing? How are you feeling heading into Mania Week?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Spencer. Mania Week's always fun. It's a little bit chaotic, and I live in LA, so this year it's in LA, so it's gonna be something special for sure. There's so much happening. Wow, I'm sure we're gonna talk about a few of the things happening, but there's so many things happening.
You're at the very least well versed in all of those quirky travel arrangements and that I see everybody tweeting about already. Hey.
Oh yeah. Luckily, I live in LA, so this 1 year I don't have to deal with all that stuff. Luckily.
I've already seen everybody tweeting out, like, make sure you take a little bit of extra time. It's only supposed to rain on Wednesday, but nothing is going to rain on your parade on March 29th. You're going to be part of ArcadeMania, taking on a bunch of who's in the wrestling world in some old school video games. I saw Mortal Kombat a part of it, as well as some professional wrestling fans. Talk to me a little bit about it, because it's a really, really cool concept, maybe something that you wouldn't traditionally see in a wrestling event or on WrestleMania week. So talk me through ArcadeMania a little bit.
Yeah, so Noe Vega as a club promoter here in Hollywood, but also internationally. He's one of the first Americans to run shows in Iceland and Denmark and very isolated places. Cool. And he's a massive wrestling fan. He back in the day he was roommates with Eli Drake, which is now LA Knight. So he knows, everybody knows who he is, and everybody knows the parties he's put on. And obviously he's a big wrestling fan. And he was like, hey, I think like Mania's in town. Like, why don't we run an event? He's like, and we run these Mortal Kombat league tournaments all over LA all the time. I'm like top 5 in the league. I'm very proud of that.
Hey, cool.
That without even training. And recently I've been training because I actually want to win that belt. We cannot let a fan win that belt. Hopefully it's got to be one of the wrestlers. But that's what's so unique about this experience. It's like an immersive, it's like a super meet and greet, if you will, where fans get to play against wrestlers, and certain fans with VIP packages will get their own entrance songs. And that's never happened before. That's something completely unique that Noe came up with, and I'm excited to be a part of the first one. He wants to run these monthly. Someone's got to defend that title, right? But yeah, let's see what happens on the first one. The first events are always very, very interesting, and yeah, let's see what happens.
Well, you got some people who are very well noted, not just as professional wrestlers, but as gamers as well. Chris Masters, Carlito, Santino Marella, and of course, Worldwide Underground implodes with John Morrisson taking part as well. Are you looking out for anybody? Is there maybe someone you think is going to be a particular challenge, or are you just walking in ready to just take the championship and walk out?
Yeah, like from all the boys playing, I kind of like know how they play, and like I know them very well. Chavo, I know, is very competitive, so I know he's probably been training all week for this. He's very, very competitive, so he's probably the only guy I have to watch out for, I guess.
And I have to mention, I would be remiss if I didn't, Juventud Guerrera as the official DJ for this. How cool is that going to be to have Juvi spinning the tunes?
Oh, that's really cool. I'm really excited. Like Juvi on the decks playing your intro song, like that's worth the ticket admission alone.
Couldn't agree with you more. Now, of course, you're not only taking part in ArcadeMania, but a couple of bookings throughout WrestleMania, including as part of Pandemonium Pro Wrestling. You're in a 30-person elimination match with like Warhorse, Chris Bay, Bussy, a ton of great people. Why are you taking part in this? What makes you so excited about being a part of Pandemonium Pro Wrestling?
Because I believe the winner of that becomes the #1 contender for the title. This show happens right before ArcadeMania. If I can become a #1 contender for this one and win the title, that's a good day, right? That's a really good Wednesday. Usually shows happen on weekends, so this will be a fun Wednesday.
I don't disagree with you at all, man. Over the last little bit, it seems as though you've been a little bit more selective in your bookings, but some pretty cool ones as well. You've taken part in the SWA in Australia, and you made your return to Impact a couple of months ago. What was the process like there, and how cool was it for you to be back for the first time in quite some time, to say the least?
Yeah, that was cool. I mean, that was cool to see a bunch of old friends, and Heath is there. You know, he'll always be like a brother to me, and it was good to catch up with him and all the guys. And yeah, it was so far. It was just for the tournaments. We've been talking about some other stuff on the side. Nothing is coming to fruition. I feel like Mania season, right? Everything's up in the air. Everyone's like scrambling to do this super show and this and travel here. So like all those negotiations kind of like went nowhere. Maybe it'll pick up again after Mania. Who knows? But like you said, I'm very selective. I pick and choose where I want to go, and if something looks really fun, you know, ArcadeMania looks extremely fun. So I mean, that was a no-brainer for me.
It was pretty cool, even tying it back to Santino a little bit, but he mentioned about a month ago that you were specifically a guy he'd really like to have in Impact. Now he's the director of authority now. Maybe that comes with a little bit of cachet, but how cool is it to have someone like Santino be like, this is a guy that I think can be a real asset to our promotion?
I mean, he's not wrong, is he? No, that's kind of cool. Maybe it made me feel good because I had no idea he saw me in such a light, you know, and he's a fantastic guy for the job, and that's kind of cool to hear. Someone else told me that yesterday too. I had no idea. I must have missed that interview, but hopefully this opens some more negotiations with him too, you know. So I mean, I know he's got some pull now that he's got, so he can put in a word for me, hopefully.
Prior to the closure of Ring of Honor, or at least the previous iteration of Ring of Honor, you were there primarily, and now obviously they're rebooted, looking badass, looking really, really cool. What are your opinions on the rebooted ROH?
I love it. I think it's cool. I think it's really, really cool. Same thing. I was in negotiations, and then it kind of went nowhere. I mean, I'd really like to be part of it. You know, like Ring of Honor was my home for the last few years, and what Tony's gonna do with this product, it looks cool, man. Like, I mean, the venue is the same as where they shoot the AEW stuff, but it just has a different feel. I don't know if it's the layout or the fans, but I mean, you know what I mean, right? I can't explain it, but I mean, as a fan, you know exactly what I mean.
Yeah. Now, is a contract the goal? That might be a dumb question, but like you just said earlier, you're a little bit more selective with your bookings. You're looking to chase real cool opportunities, and in the best of ways, sometimes a contract does get in the way of maybe going out, like you say, to Australia, or taking some of these arcade bookings like you're getting. What are you sort of leaning towards? Are you liking free agent PJ Black, or is it maybe looking for a little bit more stability on that end?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, you go through stages in life, right? I mean, obviously everyone would like some stability, but I do like the freedom of picking and choosing where I go. You know, like you said, I could just pack up and go to Australia, and then I went to South Africa before that, and we went to Dubai before that. It's cool that I can pick and choose these, you know, and I especially pick places that I haven't been before. You know, with WWE, I travel to like 40, 50 countries, but like, you know, we never get to spend time there. So I have something coming up in France in July, which I'm really excited about, because it's a place I've been to, but I haven't really explored. So now I'm going to spend a couple of days there and explore, and, you know, do the touristy thing, and get paid to go hang out there for the weekend.
Not a bad little working vacation. Hey, that's pretty cool. 50 countries. I think that sometimes people, you sort of just see the travel schedule for wrestling promotions pop up, and you just sort of say, oh, they're in, you know, wherever it may be. But 50 countries is pretty insane. Is there maybe a favorite you've been to so far?
That was only with WWE. I've wrestled in 65 countries.
Cool.
I've been to 70, wrestled in 65. You know, I grew up in Africa, so I hit a lot of the African countries, which a lot of guys don't have. It's hard to pick a favorite. They all have their pros and cons, like anything, like any business or country or place or girlfriend or boyfriend or you know. there's so many cool places, so many beautiful places. As far as probably like a wrestling based fan base, Belgium has to be one of my favorites. You know, like I remember going there with WWE, and the arena kind of looked like Gotham City. It had like this glow in the dark paint everywhere, and the bus would drive underground, and, you know, those shows used to sell out within an hour. So like the fans, they were crazy, because I mean, we used to go there like once every 2 years, so they didn't get a lot of wrestling there.
Now, you talked about traveling throughout South Africa. Obviously, being from there, you'd have a bit of a grip on the thing. But it's been a couple of years since I've heard you do an interview and talking about the scene down there. Obviously, you mentioned it was growing and coming from a bit of a place that maybe it had died off after you chose to leave. But what's the scene like nowadays in South Africa? I've seen some promotions pop up. You've even wrestled for Slam Force against RVD down there in the last recent past, I guess. But what's it like in the South African wrestling scene now?
That's a good question, actually, because no one touches on this. It's like really up and coming, and I'm very excited about it. You know, eventually I want to go back and open up some schools, or whenever I go back. When I went back recently, I went back for Christmas, and I wrestled for one of the local promotions. One of the kids that I grew up with, actually. We had some photos of us at 7, 8 years old wrestling with masks in front of people during the intermission of shows. You know, so I mean, me and him grew up going to the shows, so there was like a built-in storyline. But long story short, there's so many up and coming kids that I want to help, and there's even more that don't know how to get into wrestling. You know, like I'm one of the only South Africans to ever make it. You know, other than the other few around there. But I get emails all the time, and I get questions on social media asking the same questions. I have this copy and paste answer that I send them now. You know, sending them to one of the schools because nobody knows where to start. So I'm really excited for the future of South African wrestling.
Take me through a little bit.
My cake count shirt right
now. Very cool. Get the product placement in. We'll make sure to plug them in the. We'll make sure to send a link in that little description down there as well too. That kind of transitions me nicely as well, because you've talked a ton about the Nexus, and yeah, I do have a couple of questions on that end. But I always really loved your tag team with TJ Wilson. I think it was a little bit more short-lived than it should have been, and maybe didn't reach the heights I think a lot of people should have. So maybe take me through tag teaming with TJ.
I mean, to me, he's one of the best, right? I mean, there's a handful of people who understand wrestling inside and outside of the ring, the psychology, if you will, for lack of a better term. And he's one of them, you know, like him, Arn Anderson, Dean Malenko, Jamie Noble. I put them all in that same basket where they used to be fantastic wrestlers, but they're even better agents. You know, he still works there. It's unfortunate about his injury. I mean, he's been wrestling for almost as long as I have. It was just funny. It was a timing issue because we were getting that little push, and then he got injured for the first time in 15 years. And then when he came back, I got injured, and then he got injured again. Like right after that, it just never took off. But we had a couple of good matches. Nice little run. We got to tag with Rey Mysterio at Survivor Series, and we won. So you know, we had a couple of good memories.
I saw you posted about Ray on Instagram the other day. What does it mean to you? Just you looked up to him, obviously, but as a wrestling fan and as a guy who I think considers him a mentor in a lot of ways, to see him go into the WWE Hall of Fame this week.
I mean, he deserves it 100%. There's no doubt about that. You know, I have a feeling it's a little bit too early. I feel like he's still got something in him, but maybe he knows something that we don't. You know, I remember like when we started Lucha Underground. He was kind of not sure if he was going to keep wrestling, like he had knee problems and everything. But, you know, that locker room was such a unique locker room. It was, I mean, it's something that'll never be recreated again, ever in wrestling, ever. And, you know, it made him feel good, and we had good matches and good chemistry, and there was really good storylines and storytelling, and it just made him, he said it made him feel young again. And I mean, look at him now. I mean, that was like what, 6, 7 years ago, and then he went on this crazy like world run, and then back to WWE, and now into the Hall of Fame. So well deserved. And like you said, like we all look up to him. He's been doing it for what, like 3 decades. Like I think every single person knows Hulk Hogan and Rey Mysterio at this stage.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to say that, like, at I think 46 or whatever his age may be, I don't want to date the individual, but the guy might be doing the best work of his career, which is insane considering the body of work throughout his career, right?
I agree. But you know what? I look back at guys like, look at Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle, Edge. Like, look at all these guys. They did their best work between like 40 and 45. So maybe that is like the peak for a wrestler. Maybe, I don't know. I just hit my 40s, so I'm hoping to get this one little last push. And
I was just gonna say, you're finishing my sentence for me, but do you feel like you're sort of hitting your stride as a pro wrestler? Because again, you look at your body of work, and you're a multi-time tag team champion. You've certainly hit the heights through some of the biggest promotions in the world, but you know, you mentioned it yourself. You're right in that wheelhouse. How are you feeling now?
I mean, I feel great. My body has never felt better. I mean, stronger. I mean, I can feel myself slowing down on certain things. But I mean, as you get older, you start like thinking, what's the term I'm looking for? Not better, but smart. You work smarter, not harder, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense. You know, like it's not in the sense where I do less spots or less moves or whatever, but you just have a knack. I've learned something. Like a funny story, going on a little tangent here, but I took a year out to try to be a professional poker player. And it's a skill that I've learned from wrestling. And then I never knew, like old school wrestling. We used to listen to the crowd, and this is a lost art, by the way, because now it's just choreographed matches. Not all the time, but some people still get this lost art, and you have to like feel like we were talking earlier about that feel of honor. You can't really explain it, but you know what's supposed to come next and what people want. You can kind of like feel that.
Yeah.
For like, I don't know how to put that in words, but it taught me so many other skills in life, and then the poker playing was one. And I'm thinking like, wow, at least I realize these skills, and I should build on these skills and just get better and better. Maybe that's what they mean when you get to this age and you doing the best work of your life, because all those little things just click, click, click.
Obviously, you don't want to think post in-ring career here and that, but like you talk about sort of getting more of a mindset for the wrestling business through a career. Would that maybe apply to like taking on a new role like commentary or agenting, like you were talking about with TJ earlier? Is that maybe something that you'd look towards in the future, or while you're still in the midst of your in-ring career?
Definitely. I mean, I've been teaching a lot of seminars around the world, and I think I'm a good coach. I really, really want to set something up in South Africa. Like I said, there's a lot of young up and comers that I want to help, but not yet. I still want to do this one little last run. I've been negotiating, talking to some people. I actually got offered an NXT coaching job, but I was like, I'm not ready for this yet. I can do maybe do one little run, And again, negotiations went nowhere because it's WrestleMania and all that stuff, and maybe giving up some spoiler alerts here, but it didn't go anywhere, so it doesn't look like it's going to go anywhere. But maybe that's a sign. That's a good thing, because I can definitely squeeze out another few more years, at least until my body like says no more, and I feel good. Like I have steel pins in my legs from base jumping and everything, but my body still feels good. Like I can do everything that I can much better and much better pace than I used to. So I'm gonna do it until my body says no more.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a base jumping thing. It's not a wrestling thing yet. The body's fine from wrestling. I had to ask,
Yeah,
what are your
exactly.
thoughts on Wade Barrett as a commentator?
I think it's fantastic. I think he's great. He's entertaining, and he'll always be one of my boys. So like, I'm all for it.
If you do ever make that transition, a good partner for you, hey?
Exactly. Hey, never say never, right? It's still gonna happen.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. And then the other one that I did want to touch on, because I told you I had a couple of Nexus questions, but get asked a lot of the same stuff. I wanted to ask, like, you mentioned briefly in an interview that one of the guys like did your theme music over the last couple of years, if I'm remembering correct.
Oh yeah, my new theme. Tarver did that actually. I wrote it. I wrote the beat, and like the guys that mixed it did a fantastic job. They did a better job than because I'm not a musician, but I kind of knew what I wanted, and I gave him some words to hit. And he's a Christian rapper. He has many albums out. If you guys don't know him, check him out. Monster Tarver on Instagram. Like he did a fantastic job. Wow, he's amazing.
I always love those little nuggets, especially like you say, you guys have kept in contacts. You guys are like brothers when you're talking about Heath. It's cool to hear that applies even just outside of wrestling, like we were talking about. Talk about them outside and inside of wrestling. You're going to be taking on John Morrisson and others tomorrow, March 29th at ArcadeMania. But PJ, if the people want to find you inside or outside of the ring, where can they do so online and anywhere in between?
I'm pretty active on Instagram at PJ450. But yeah, just check out ArcadeMania 23 on Instagram. Like be a lot of trash talking. I saw Johnny Combat or Johnny Arcade, whatever he calls himself, did a nice little promo on there, and then so did Hoovy and some of the other guys. So just check out our arcademania.club for now, and then after that, I guess we'll chat again when I'm the champ.
It's a consistent booking, whether you're talking about at the arcade or on the podcast. I always got time for you. Thank you very much for having the time for me today. Friends, if you've got the opportunity, it's going to be a crazy WrestleMania week, but make sure you're checking out ArcadeMania amongst the myriad of great independent wrestling shows going on. You'll get the opportunity to hang out with PJ, with John Morrisson. Here are some tunes from Juventud Guerrera, and then kick off Mania week right with some great professional wrestling shows. If you want to keep up to date with the latest and greatest from the world of wrestling, wherever podcasts are played, videos are viewed, or awesome contents created by awesome people, check us out at Love Wrestling CA. However you choose to support, it is always appreciated, as was the time again today, PJ. Thanks once again for taking it for me, and thank you once again for taking the time for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.